I'll first introduce myself. My name is Gaurav Dikshit. I worked as a senior architect with Nagarro. I have experience on SharePoint, various versions of SharePoint, and I have helped my client from setting up SharePoint from scratch to migrating them from one version to another, migrating them over cloud offering of SharePoint like Office 365 and SharePoint Online. So that's about me. I'll request Dushyant to introduce himself and then we can proceed with the session. Yeah, Dushyant, go ahead.
Hello everyone, myself Dushyant Sharma. I also work in Nagarro as a staff engineer, and I have a whole experience in SharePoint from 2013 to SharePoint Online and all the Power Platforms and Azure. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with session. So today's topic is like advanced data governance in Office 365. So we'll talk about like what are the data governance features there in Office 365 and not just SharePoint Online. So let's just start with the agenda. So let me move to the next slide. The agenda. So today's agenda will be data governance introduction. Like we'll briefly talk about what is data governance in general, why it is important to have data governance. Then we'll talk about key features of data governance related key features in Office 365. We'll talk about like classifying document content on the Office tenant and how retention policies works in Office 365. Classification is important for any governance. If you want to implement, you need to first classify your content. We'll talk about data loss prevention, DLP, as such. That's a important topic in today's agenda. We'll see governance dashboard, which is also known as Compliance Center in Office 365. What are the key features there in Compliance Center dashboard? How it can help you in taking efficient and quick decisions. You can see your snapshot in like quick way. So we'll talk about that. We will talk about electronic discovery or e-discovery, where we will see like how we can retrieve our content in case of any legal litigation. We can take hold on the content in case of any like legal issue or litigation. We'll talk about audit logs, where you want to see like what users in your organizations are doing, or what happened with your content in recent past or long past. Yeah, you can use audit log for that. We'll touch base on the licensing requirement, and we'll also discuss some APIs for automation. If you want to automate few things related to data governance, we'll touch base upon APIs available for that. And then we will have some demos as well, where we will showcase the retention in action, like how retention works in SharePoint. What are the policy recommendations using machine learning? So why we are calling it as a advanced data governance feature, because behind the scene it is using cutting edge technologies, using like machine learning, artificial intelligence to give you policy recommendations based on your content. So it has a lot of backend processing happening to give you those proactive alerts and to take decisions. Then we will talk about inbuilt document templates. So there are like thousands of inbuilt templates that Office 365 algorithm matches your content against which, and if it finds a match, it will going to alert you that you can apply a policy related to these document templates types. And in demo, we'll also cover the automation using APIs. As I said, like we'll showcase some of the APIs using Graph Explorer, so that you can get an idea how you can authenticate and then call those APIs. And then like opportunities or there are a lot of opportunities to automate things using Azure or Power Platform flows. So in general, we'll be just showcasing like how you can call APIs, and then automation scenarios can be handled like Azure functions or the Power Platform solutions. Okay. So that was pretty much the brief of the session agenda through which we'll be going through. Then let's move on to the data governance introduction part. So what is data governance and why we need data governance? We'll be covering that first. So I mean, everyone knows the importance of data nowadays. Few folks are calling it as a digital currency because it can easily compare with the monetary value of an organization. Few are calling it as a data as a new oil. Like oil has an impact on the economy in 90s. Same impact data is having today. So in that sense, you can call it as a like digital currency. Data is a huge impact on the economy, and foreign organization data can be said as a asset. So that's that's everyone knows about the importance of the data. Now, why we need data governance? As I said, data is asset, but we need to make sure to manage it well so that it doesn't become a liability. Uh, there are scenarios where what are the scenarios where data can become a liability is suppose your organization uh, is working in an industry where the government regulatory has put some compliance related to your business. You need to adhere to those compliances. And if you're not adhering to those compliances, then you are liable to penalty. Even businesses can be shut down if those compliances are not being followed properly. So in that sense, data governance helps you over there. Similarly, the other scenarios could be like you get into a legal litigation where you need to quickly retrieve your electronically stored data and provide them to in the legal court of law. So and if you are not able to do that, you are liable to penalties and all that. So in those scenarios, like it can become easily liability for you if you are not following the data governance properly or not taking it seriously. So it has been asked to like make a proper strategy at the top level for data governance. So that's a requirement these days that you need to have data governance policies in place. Another example, if I may say, of data becoming liabilities, like if certain information gets leaked from your organization. So you need to make sure that your information is protected. People's personal identifiable informations are not being leaked outside. Your information, your strategy for your business should not be leaked outside your organization. So all these data loss need to be prevented. So for that, data loss prevention policies are there. So in that sense, I think you must have got some idea about like why the data governance is important and how it can easily turn down a business or at least make a major impact on the progress of the business. So the third part in the advanced data governance is the key features in the Office 365. What are the key features available in Office 365 related to advanced data governance? So I will move on to that part, which brings to next slide of our agenda. So key features are like efficient data classification. So as I said earlier, for any data governance to be have in place, you need to classify your data. So Office 365 provides you ability to classify your data using retention labels, using sensitivity labels. You can classify your data. It matches, as I said earlier, it matches your content against the thousands of document templates and then recommend you that you should classify this kind of data to this particular type of template and then define the policies on based on the type of classification of your data. Next key feature is proactive policy recommendation. So again, like if you classify your data well, then it will be able to give you proactive policy recommendations. Like if some document has sensitive information, it may alert you that this information should not be passed outside your organization, or some document should retain for certain period of years in your organization. This document contains SSN of employees. It contains credit card information, So it, based on all that, it can alert you about this. Then data retention, I think I already discussed. There are some compliances which says to retain your data for a certain period of time. Then inbuilt templates, I briefly touched upon that as well. So let me move to the next slide, which is key features continue. Then it has intelligent policy enforcement as well. So once you define the policies, it in the back end, it enforces those policies. Like you define retention policies, you define disposition policies, you define the deletion policies based on the classification of data. So it, in the back end, it will enforce all those policies. Then next key feature, which I think we should focus on, is it covers across Office 365 products. So it's not about like one product we are talking about here, like SharePoint Online or Exchange or Teams or Office 365 groups. So it's not just about one product. In general, you can define policy at the central tenant level, and then those policies can be published to all or selective product. Like you can define a policy which is applicable to all emails, all SharePoint Online content, or Teams content, and you can apply that policy over there. Similarly, you can have a policy which is just applied to emails. So all these possibilities are there, but the key point is like it covers all the products of Office 365. So that's the main important thing. Then governance dashboard is like a snapshot view of your content. Like it helps you in knowing your data. So the generally data governance team is a different team altogether, or a different data governance officer is different than the usual business process of the organization. So he cannot have the information about all the site collections, all the teams in the tenant. So this data governance helps him to provide the summary of the content. He gets to know about the content, what is happening, what kind of whatever information he needs to know. This dashboard provides that information in a brief manner, and based on that, the data governance officer can take a quick decision, or the legal team can take quick decisions based on that. Then document disposal and disposal review. So like their retention policies are there. So after a certain period of time, your document will get deleted. But you may want to like have a look before they actually get deleted or disposed. So disposition review or disposition approval process can be made in place. That is inbuilt feature in the data governance features of Office 365. So these features are there. So now I think we have covered all key features of Office 365 data governance. We can move to now the classification and retention. So this will be a bit deeper discussions where we'll talk about like how record management works in Office 365, how we classify data, classify content in the organization using labels, what are the rules to apply labels, what is file plan. So we'll get a bit deeper on this topic about classification and retention. And Dushyant is going to talk more on this. So over to you, Dushyant. You can proceed further on that.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. So I'll try to quickly touch base all the terminologies we'll be using in this session. So first of all, what is the record management? Basically, it involves two types of documents. So one is your working document, which is expected to have some modification over a period of time, and the other one is a business record, where it is not expected to be modified, and it should be an immutable like a PDF. So a business scenario can be a tax document for an employee, like it has to be updated for each month. So it will be a working document for us, but at the end of year, it needs to be published somewhere like in a PDF format where we can call it a business record, and it should not be modified later on. So these are the two types of documents involved in the record management.
So if I may like provide another example of the business record is like, let's say you are keeping track of your employees reviews and their performance appraisals in an organization. So those all like working HR files for that particular employee. But when that person leaves your organization, they should become immutable business records. You should not be able to change it. If somebody want to refer it in future, they should be refer those as is. It should not be changed. So while the employee was with the organization, all these were working documents. But once he leaves, it becomes a business record. Yeah, Dashan, go ahead. Just wanted to like give one more example so that people better understand it.
Yeah, right. So going forward, we have labels in Microsoft 365 to basically classify our data. So there are two types of labels: sensitivity label and a retention label. So what is a sensitivity label is it is just a part of this Microsoft Information Protection Framework, and that allows us to classify our data in basically five locations like Office application, SharePoint Online, Teams, OneDrive, and Exchange Online. And it provides this ability to encrypt, add a watermark, add header, and add footer. We'll shortly cover this in a demo. And next one is the retention level. So retention level allows us to put retention on a specific document in the following areas like Exchange email, Office 365 groups or teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And retention level provides us ability to either retain a document or delete a document. So here we will define a certain timeline after which a document should get deleted, or a certain timeline in during which the document should not get deleted by any means. Then after defining labels, we'll have to publish those. So for sensitivity label, we need to publish it to the users and groups so that those users can use those labels to apply the watermark and the header or footer. And for the retention level, we need to publish it to a specific locations, areas where it will be available for the users so that they can apply to the documents, so that they can mark documents for whether it should be retained or should be deleted after a certain period of time. So compliance officer can publish these labels and can define in the compliance center. Then we have a to apply a label. There are two approaches like automatic and manual. So in automatic, we can define retention label and plus what type of sensitive info we need to avail that label on, and then based on that condition, if that condition met, like this document contains this kind of sensitive info types, then it will be auto applied on that document which matches that type. And for the manual, we can publish the sensitivity label and to the specific areas, and then user can manually apply those label to the document. So next is the file plan. So file plan is just a means to work upon bulk edit of these labels, where we can create and manage retention label from information governance in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. But file plan from record management has additional management capabilities, where you can bulk create or edit these labels. Then we have a so just to get you started, there's some out of the box values for file plan descriptors. So through this we can define the file plan. So file plan is just a collection of all the labels. For example, there can be patient, HRA, document, NDA, and we can define certain metadata like what is the business function, what is the category, or what is the authority type, or what is the provision or citation. Yeah, so I think I have covered this slide. Gaurav, next slide, please. Yeah. So next we have event-based retention. So what is the event-based is whenever we define a retention label, we have to define the timeline. Like I can define timeline in days, months, or years. Like I need to retain this document, this kind of document, this type of document for 5 years at least. And so there are three out of the box basically starting point available, like those are when the document is created, when the document was last modified, or when the label was applied on the document. So timeline will start from there, that point. So the fourth point is the event base, where we can define our own custom event. So business scenario can be like there can be a training session or any certification drive. So we can create a document 1 week before or 1 week after, but we can define the event. For example, 19th of September is the event type. So we can define the retention like after 2 weeks or after 1 month, this document should get deleted, or this should not get deleted before 1 month. We can do that
Yeah. So
using
another
retention.
example could be like we have an event like this event that we are talking about right now. So there will be content related to this event, like recordings would be there. So if we want to have certain retention policies have related to this particular event, like these recordings should become business record or should be disposed after a certain period of time. So then based on this event, we can have retention policies in place, yeah, and based on event date defined by administrator, those actions will be taken care of by Office 365 automatically. Yeah, Darshan, go ahead.
Yeah, so in event-based creation, there are 3 steps basically. So we need to create an event type. So event type is nothing but just a title and description to define an event. It is just a placeholder, which we can then utilize in defining a retention label, like what type of event I want to associate it with. And then third point, we need to actually create an event where we will provide the actual date or the settings of the event, like what is the event exactly. Then comes our retention policies is done. Okay. So we can publish these across Exchange email, Office 365 groups or teams, and OneDrive and SharePoint. Then just an example, there is an SEC Rule 17A4, which is a regulation issued by US Securities and Exchange Commission. This is simply an Exchange Act, and this will be already available in the Microsoft 365, which we can utilize and directly consume it and use it for our compliance management.
Yeah, so this is like just one of the example of the compliances. So what this rule says, or this act says, that all these financial brokerage firms or the financial security agencies should retain the transactional information for certain period of time in their system, and if required, they need to present those. So these kind of common compliances has been already or inbuilt has been added into the system. So you just need to like say that I want to follow this compliance. So and there are more compliances which you can define on your own, or you can utilize from predefined in the system. In addition, go ahead.
Yeah, so Microsoft Office 365 avails a preservation log, which will help us to meet such type of requirements. So another term is here preservation log. It is just a feature which ensures our organization which can meet a regulatory requirement, because it logs a retention policy so that no one, including the administrator, can turn off the policy or delete the policy or make it less restrictive. So when a retention policy is logged, no one can turn it off. Locations can be added but not removed. Content subject to the policy can't be modified or deleted during the retention period. And we can extend the retention period, but we cannot decrease it. In summary, a logged retention policy can be increased or extended, but it can't be reduced or turned off. So next one is the DLP. So DLP stands for data loss prevention. It is just another security feature in Microsoft 365, which is used to protect against data loss, data leakage, and unauthorized viewing of data stored in the cloud. So at the backend, technology is using hardware and software. So the end user, the compliance officer will use it to meet compliance or government regulations. It is used to enhance security of an organization, and there are certain considerations we need to make sure in the DLP policies, like no policies is available by default. However, DLP policy templates are available, which we can use to create policies. And then we policies can contain some prioritized rules, and there are some key characteristics like where, when, and how, like where to protect content, and when to protect content, and how to protect content. So a simple example can be we can define like any document which can contain credit card information. So if we have this policy enforced and published, then that we can enforce that whenever a user within an organization shares that document outside the organization, he will get some policy warning, policy tips. If he shares from SharePoint, if he shares from email, he will get the warning. And at the same time, administrator will also get notification for the breach of this policy. Then there are some exception options available also in DLP. These are the conditions when rule doesn't apply. So these are like we can define like if a content is shared or if a sender IP addresses. So we can just shortlist some IPs where we do not want this policy to work, or where an email attachment content could not be scanned or didn't complete scanning, or attachment is password protected, or a recipient domain is, we can also bypass for some domains, like we can share sensitive information across these domains as well. Or if we if a recipient domain is, or if a attachment file extension is, or a document property is, so we can define on the base of property of a document also. So we can define some exceptions in DLP as well. So regarding sensitive info types, there are multiple sensitive info types available out of the box. So just to name a few, there are Australian passport number, Canadian social insurance number, European driver's license number, Japan resident registration number, US social security number, or international banking number. So all these such kind of, and there are lots of more sensitive info types which we can just directly consume and avail in our and define our policies. Yeah, over to you, Gaurav.
Okay, thanks, Sashant. So a lot of people are asking about demos. So yes, we will have a demo just after this governance dashboard discussion, and then we will move on to the demo of the things like retention labels and policies that the Sam just talked about. And then we will discuss e-discovery and audit log, and then we have demo for that. Okay. So I will quickly cover this dashboard part because we need to jump onto the demo as people are seeing. So governance dashboard is like a snapshot of your organization, and it is being published as a Microsoft 365 compliance center. That's the latest addition into the various admin centers on the Office 365 app launcher. So what this compliance center gives you, like your total score, scoring against your compliance for that you have opted for, and then it gives you like how many steps are remaining if you are following in policies, or if some user is sharing files, you can see from here like who are the users who are most sharing files outside our organization. And the best thing which I found here is like you can customize it based on your needs. So there are a lot of cards in in the screenshot. You just see like 4 cards as of now, but you can add and remove the sections and cards from this compliance center and tweak it based on your needs. So we are not going to talk about all the cards available here, but the sample is given here. Like there are 4 cards in the compliance center, and similarly in the security center, it again provides the security score based on certain rules, and then classification is also there if you refer like bottom of the secure scorecard, like where you are lacking or where there are opportunities to improve upon. Then identity protection, it again like using backend algos, it gives you like there are certain users at risk, how much compliant your devices are, unwanted softwares are installed on the devices. So all these kind of security related things is provided into the security center. So that's about the governance dashboard, and based on these snapshots you can take decisions. So let us move to the next slide, which is demo. So now we will see like retention policies and things in action on the tenant, on the trial tenant that we have created. So Dushyant, please go ahead and share your screen.
So I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see it. So meanwhile it is coming, let me just explain a business scenario. Like we can have a health organization or hospital wherein there is a requirement to classify a data. For example, there can be a data for patient, there can be data for NDA, non-disclosure agreement, there can be data for employees, there can be data for resumes, and so that's how we may have some requirements where we need to classify data, which will ease the life of compliance officer going forward, so that they can, if they need to apply some policies or make some retention or some data loss prevention, so they can define over these categories. So next, after defining labels, we can create policies. For example, there can be a requirement like NDA can be at any location, but patient and NDA can be at any location. So we can define a policy to publish these two labels at all the locations. But for the employee and resume plus NDA, these can only be available on HR site. So we can define in the policy itself where we should be having these labels available. So let me just quickly show you how to create a label. So this is the admin center for the tenant, and we can go to the security from the left navigation. It will open the protection.office.com. There we will have the information governance in the left navigation, the classification, data loss prevention, and all the other aspects. So for now, let's just create a sensitivity label. So we can click on create a label. We can provide a name for this label. There can be two descriptions. So one description will be available to the users and the other one for the admins. So let me just quickly. So that's
So it will be available like if you are in SharePoint Online, you are applying a label. So beneath that, it will show like medical history for user, or you can have like relevant messages over there for user to understand, to let them understand like what they are doing basically by applying that label.
Yeah. So on next screen, we can define whether we want to encrypt our data or not. Let us just leave none here. And here we are provided with the options whether we want to mark the content. So here we can provide a watermark, header or footer. So we can check this and we can provide our text here. We can define the font size, font color or text layout like diagonal or horizontal, and we can click on save. And similarly, going on to the next, let me just provide it, save. Okay. Now on this screen we are provided with the option like if whether we want to auto label for the office apps. So we can enable or disable it, and for to enable we will need to provide some condition. So whenever that condition is met, this label will be auto applied to those documents. And click on next, and we can review our settings on this page and click on create label. So let me just quickly show you how the label will actually be available to the end user. So I've opened Microsoft Word, and there you can see on the top right section there is a sensitivity. In that label will be available which we have created, and as I selected it, so you can see that the header, the watermark and the footer is already auto applied. So that's how these are two aspects which we got from this sensitivity level. One is we have defined somewhat a template for some official document, and the other is later on we can easily find out the particular sensitive type of information across the tenant, whether it is in OneDrive, in Exchange, in SharePoint, or in Teams or wherever. So this is for the sensitivity level. Let us go to the retention level.
So
Similarly,
there are
for
two things happening, like standards are being set across the organization, and then you can easily retrieve those documents. That's what I think the change is.
right. So similarly for the retention label, we can click on create a label button. Okay, similarly we will define our name here, like I can have a medical record retention 5 year. So in retention we basically work upon the timeline. So whether we want the document to be retained for 5 year, or we want it to be deleted after 5 years. Then again, description for admin and description for user. On the next screen, these are the for the file plans. We'll cover this later. Next, we have a actual settings for this retention. So if I click it on, it is taking some time. Let me open this again. So if I open, switch on these retention settings, so you can see that there is two options. One is retain the content, other is don't retain the content, just delete it older than. So we will define timeline for both the options, whichever option we want. So we can define the timeline in days, months, and years, and we can define, like, for example, in our case, 5 years. So we are saying that retain this document 5 years, and no one can delete this document, whichever document is associated with this label. And after that, we have three options. Either we can just delete it automatically, or we can trigger a disposition review, or we can just leave it as it and do nothing. Next option is we want to just delete it if any document is older than that time period. So we can define again 5 years here, and then we can define, okay, so after 5 years, whichever document is associated with this label and is older than 5 years, it will be deleted automatically. So let us continue with retain. So this is it.
Yeah.
So
While the synth is moving ahead, question may arise like what happen if two policies are applied on a document and one says like retain it for 5 years, and another says like retain it for 7 years. So the rule is like the longer period works. So longer period will take precedence. So like whatever longer period is there, that will take precedence. This one.
So next, we another question can be arise, like, when this time period will start from. So this is the drop down where we are getting three options by default, which is when the document was created, or it was last modified, or when the label was applied. So from this is the starting point from where this timeline will start, and we have defined the timeline, and we have defined whether to retain it or delete it. And the fourth type is an event. We'll cover this later on. So that's how we can define our retention label, and this is how this is created. Okay, next, let's just cover the file plan. So there are two centers which will be involved playing around with the officer, compliance officer. So one is the security, which we have just saw. Another one is the compliance center. So in compliance center, on the left navigation, you can see records management. In record management, there is a file plan. So this is the screen from where we will get utility to work upon bulk edit. Like, we go through certain screens to create a single label. So we can just import or export from here. Like, if I export this file and open this, so it will provide me in an Excel where I can edit very easily all the, for example, if I have 550 or 100 labels for to define, so we can just quickly edit in the Excel and then import here. So all the labels will be available here. So file pen is just to ease the life of compliance officer. Next, let me just show you quickly the DLP. So again, I'm going to security from the admin center. And here you can see the data loss prevention in left navigation. So let me just quickly cover one policy. Okay, so here we can see that I have one policy which is utilizing US financial data. So Let me just edit and show the settings. So there are three settings for any policy. We can just turn it on right away, or we can check out it in testing mode, or we can just define the policy and publish it, but we don't want to turn it on right now. We can turn it on later. Next is the location. So we have an option like where should these policies should work. So we have Exchange, SharePoint sites, OneDrive account, and team chat and channel messages as well. Next is the policy setting. So as you can see, I have already defined a rule where I have utilized US financial data. So whenever this data, so this is the condition. So what is the condition is whenever it detects that the content is shared with people outside my organization, the condition will be met. And this condition will be applicable only on the sensitive info types like credit card number, US bank account number, and ABA routing number. So whenever any document contains this kind of information and it is shared outside my organization, this condition will be met and the policy will be set into action. And I have set three actions for this policy. One is the notify user itself with an email and a policy tip. So if a user share a document from even a SharePoint site through a link, or he can share a document via email to anyone outside my organization. So at the event of its happening, the user will receive a notification, an email that he has breached policy, and also on the document which is stored in the SharePoint site, which has been shared with the link. So he will get a policy tip there that this contains some sensitive information, and this should be taken care of. Next, I have also set two more actions for administrator, like it will send incident report to an administrator and then also alert to an administrator. So administrator will get two emails for this one incident. So that's how policy works. Let me just show you quickly. So this is one of a SharePoint site in my tenant. And as you can see, there is one document with the warning red triangle sign. So this is a policy tip and it is alerting. So basically what we have done here is, for the demo purpose, we have created a document where this number fulfills the criteria for being a credit card number. If I select this document and see the properties, you can see that policy tip here comes. So this is telling us that this is shared with outside organization, because I've shared this outside the organization through link. So this policy is reporting me this. So that's how the policy works. DLP policy works. Yeah. So next is the e-discovery. So e-discovery is just a method to identify and collect information that can be used in legal proceeding. So there is one term which need attention, like custodian. So what is the custodian here? So when an organization responds to a legal investigation, or a very basic example can be one of my employee or customer asks for his or her information, what is stored across the tenant, whether anywhere in the tenant, like SharePoint, Teams, or Exchange, or anywhere. So we need to we can fulfill that requirement using e-discovery feature. So when an organization responds to an illegal investigation, the workflow around under identifying, preserving, and collecting potentially relevant content is based on the people in the organization. For example, our employee has requested for the information, so we call them as custodians or data custodians. So another important aspect here is the licensing. So in the licensing, we can have like licensing for 10 custodians. So at a time, we can work upon 10 user requirements only. So there are three main components of e-discovery. Like there is a content search, there is a core e-discovery, and third one is autoscope for today, that is advanced e-discovery. So content search is e-discovery has two tools inside of a case. So wherever such requirements or proceedings or requirement comes to a compliance officer, the officer will create a case, e-discovery case, and in that case there are two options like search and hold. And in core e-discovery there are three options: hold, search, and exports. So search is basically a search using keyword query language like KQL, which we use across like SharePoint, Office Graph, everywhere in the SharePoint, Office 365. And then holds. So hold is when we place content location on hold, that content is preserved until you remove the hold. And after you create an in-discovery hold, it may take up to 24 hours for the hold to take effect. And search we have already covered. Then the export. So after a search is successful, we can export the search result. So when we export the search result, mailbox items are downloaded in PST files or as individual messages. And when you export content from SharePoint and OneDrive for business sites, so it copies the native Office document and other documents are exported. And a result CSV file that contains information about every item that's exported, and a manifest file in XML format that will contain information about every search result which has been exported. So that's how e-discovery tool comes into very handy in such case of requirements. Next is the audit log. So audit log is another feature. First of all, this feature needs to be activated by the compliance officer. After that, what will happen? The system will log each and every activity for every individual in the tenant. Whether a user has accessed a file, has previewed a file, downloaded a file, opened a document, uploaded a document, anything, send an email. So all the activities will be logged, and we can audit those activities using this audit log feature. So auditing feature log changes that are made to customer records and user access. So you can review the activity later. The auditing feature is designed to meet the auditing, compliance, security, and governance of policies of many regulated enterprises. So audit log actually helps the administrator to answer questions such as which user was accessing the system and when, who updated this field value on the record and when.
Hi, folks. Sorry to interrupt. You have another 10 more minutes left. Thank you.
Thank you. So, or what was the previous field value before it was updated, or what action has the user taken recently, or who deleted this record, what locale was used to make this update. So all these queries will be can be answered easily with this audit log feature. And what are the operations which can be audited are like create, update, deactivate, or delete operations on record, change to the sharing privileges of a record, changes to security roles, deletion of audit log itself, or for change made to entity field that can be localized, such as the product entity name or description field. So the local ID, LCID, will appear in the audit record. And system administrators and customizers can start or stop auditing for an organization. So let me just quickly show you the demo for e-discovery and audit log. So I've gone into the protection office, which is available from the security link under the admin center. And there in the left navigation, I have e-discovery. I click on e-discovery. And we have created one case to just quickly go through. So this is a case which we have created. So here you can see it is currently showing me the created date of the case. It is showing the current status, which is active. We can close the case if the requirement is fulfilled. And there are three more tabs: hold, searches, and exports. So if I go to searches, we can define n number of searches. So if I open this demo search and view the result, so here you can see a quick sample of a search, how the search will work for the e-discovery for fulfilling all the requirements Like I've searched for the demo keyword, and it has searched across the tenant, and wherever this keyword has been found, whether it is an Exchange email or a document in SharePoint site, anywhere in the tenant, it will be appearing here, and then we can select our particular cases, and we can put some holds, and after that we can export those data, and we can fulfill the requirement that what information do we have in the tenant for the particular employee or the client which they have requested. Next, let me just quickly cover the audit. So I am in the compliance center now. We can go to it by clicking on the link compliance in the admin center. In the left navigation, we have audit. So here you can see we have a more elaborated kind of search. Here we have activities upon which we can make a search, and there are lots of activities, and almost every type of activity which we can do a search upon, like who accessed a file, or who changed retention level for a file, or if anyone has checked in a file, or anyone copied a file. And to narrow the search, we can also define the users, which will be our custodians. So for example, if we have some doubt on some panel or some set of group of users, we can define those users, and we can then refine a search. We can also provide site URL or folder, or to further refine our search. We can also provide like whether we want to access this auditing for the past 1 week or past 1 month, whether anyone has deleted a document from this set of users. We can do all those things. Let me just quickly show access the site for a user Dushyant, and for 12 September to 20 September. On click of search, it will list down all the activities for this user Dushyant, and it will provide me the date and time, the IP address, the user, activity, item, and details. So that's how we have pretty much full control on our tenant. What type of information is there, what type of policy we want to incorporate, what type of regulations we need to adhere to, or what type of auditing we may need to. So all these kinds of things can be easily done here. Yeah, so over to you, Gaurav, now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dushyant. So I'll quickly share my screen. There are just few things that we need to discuss now. So let me move on to those things quickly. So we discussed about e-discovery, audit logs, demo we have done. Yeah, so we can quickly touch base on the licensing part. So licensing is a huge topic and it cannot be covered in a session itself. But what I can do now, right now here is like I have provided references which you can refer and see, refer for your designing strategy purpose, where you can see like what licensing you will need. So this is a slide, the same link I have opened here, and you can see in this Microsoft 365 compliance licensing comparison, all the features are listed down related to different sections of the topic that we discussed, like information protection, governance, insider risk management, discovery and respond. And against each feature, what license would be required is mentioned here. So whether this feature is covered in this license or not. So all this has been mentioned here, like few things are there available in the E5 license, but not with the E3, like this one. So if I take quickly an example about advanced e-discovery. So inside e-discovery, row number 3 inside e-discovery is advanced discovery. And if you see this row number 3 in the advanced discovery, this is there in the E5 license, but it is not available in the E3. So these things you can take care of, like when you are designing any solution or proposing something, like what kind of licensing would be required. So I have not touched base all the things over here, but I have given the reference about how licensing can be determined, especially related to advanced data governance features. So then we can quickly talk about APIs. We have just 3 minutes left, so I'll quickly touch base upon it. So there are PowerShell APIs through which you can do a lot of things, like you can bulk create, publish labels. I have given a reference over here. like using PowerShell, you can bulk create labels, you can bulk apply policies. There are graph APIs for like e-discovery and audit log related things. So I can quickly showcase one of the graph API. So let's say you want to list down all the e cases inside your tenant. So here I have just logged in with the Dushyant account, and if I run query, it's gonna give me like all the e-policy cases there. Like my case one is just one case which is there in my tenant. So you can call these APIs from your Azure function or the Power App or the Flow, and then you can automate things over there. Similarly, there are policies which can create new e-discovery cases through from here. So like if you see like this API e-discovery cases, and I have created this case which I was showing you from here itself, like my case one. So if I need to create one more case, I can create it from here itself. Like I said, my case two, and it might work. Yes. So if I go back again and try to see get, so this time I should get two cases, right? So that's how, like from API, you can create e-discovery cases. So that was a brief example that I have shown you like how you can create cases using API. Yeah.
Folks, we have just 1 more minute left.
Yes, I'll skip the authentication, but it's a generic topic about authentication. Any graph API, how you authenticate, you need to register an application in the Azure AD, and then you can get a token from that, and you can call the Office 365 Management API using that. So API that I shown earlier can be called using this. And the API demo we have given, these are the references from where we have taken the images and the content we have referred. We have collected everything from these references. So it's important to give credit to these links. So I have provided all these references over here. Questions, I was trying to answer all the questions which were being asked through chat. So I have tried like cover most of the questions over there. So I think we are done. Thanks Vignesh for giving this opportunity to us. And thanks everyone for attending this session.
Thank you all.
Thanks everyone.
Folks, the next IT Pro session is starting. So if at all you have any specific questions, you can please stay back and ask, but then the next session is going to start. So I'd request you folks to move on to the next session.
So Gaurav, Jay here, I have a specific question. So there are organizations, because of complaints, they have a overarching requirement. All data in Office 365 needs to be retained forever. A simple question like that. A requirement. So in those cases, is there a calculator or is there a way that I can calculate what should be the tenant DB size required on year? Because if I'm going to put an overarching tenant policy, okay, that retain all data forever.
Right.
So how can I calculate the details, like what should be my tenant DB size required for every 5 years or every year, something like that?
Yep. So to answer your question, like there is no direct way to do it, but like from the site collection uses, you can get the size growth rate from the site collection report. Similarly,
Yeah,
there are growth report from other products as well.
So, but from a tenant side, DB size is spread across even the Exchange Online, not just the SharePoint site. It's everything. So as a IT pro, how would I be able to facilitate to show a curve? We are going to hit the threshold in next 2 years or next 1 year. And our cap spending money is getting lost.
Yeah. So I understand your question, and I don't think there is a direct way. Only way that I can think of right now is like through different product reports. You can gauge the size of that particular site collection and club that and extrapolate the numbers from different.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt again.